Hello and welcome back to First Press Dawson Talks Olive Oil. I'm your host, Daniel Dawson. On today's show, we'll be looking at new research into declining production in decade-old super high-density olive groves, an interesting critique of Costco's Kirkland Signature Olive Oil brand, and my Olive Oil Times colleague, Paolo will join us to discuss a new research and promotion order in the United States. But on to our first story. Super high-density olive groves, also known as super intensive, have been planted over the past 2 decades from California and Australia to Spain and Portugal. In the system, trees are planted in rows with about 1 meter between each tree and 3 meters between each row, but this can vary slightly depending on the location and the variety. The trees are harvested mechanically, which have seen them hailed as a way to make the industry more efficient. Super intensive groves require less labor in places where a lack of workers is a constant concern. Researchers in Spain estimate that a kilogram of extra virgin olive oil from traditional groves costs 4.5 times more to produce than a kilogram from super high density groves. However, there's been a lot of concern about the environmental impact of super intensive groves, including their potential contribution to desertification in Spain. Now, research from the Catalan Institute of Research and Technology in Agri-Food, known as IRTA, has found that super high density arbequina groves saw declining production compared to high density and traditional groves after the 10th year of production. While the super-intensive system reached 10 metric tons of olive production per hectare by the 4th year, yields fell to just 4 tons per hectare after the 16th harvest, lower than the yields in high-density and traditional systems. The IRTA researchers hypothesized that competition between the tree's canopies may contribute to declining productivity. While they suggested removing every 3rd tree and pruning canopies may mitigate some of the decline, they added that more research is needed to better understand the situation. In my opinion, we're entering an interesting moment where we will see if these hugely capital-intensive, super high-density projects are profitable in the long term. Private equity groups have invested significantly in super high-density olive groves in Portugal and southern Spain. In Portugal, some of these plantations are facing a backlash from traditional producers and local residents who say the monocropping of olives to this degree is damaging the environment. From what I've been told, super intensive groves have a mixed track record. There are stories of 30-year-old super-intensive groves in Spain needing to be replaced and similar groves in California not working out as well as expected. Moving on, we've got a story in BuzzFeed News warning that a $30 bottle of olive oil might be a scam, but there's an easy way to determine if this is the case. The article provides some good advice about buying olive oil while also presenting some opinions as facts. Starting with what BuzzFeed gets right, it advises readers to go by the harvest date instead of the best buy date, see if the origin of the olive oil is identified, and make sure the bottle says extra virgin. All of that is great advice, so bravo to BuzzFeed News for the public service announcement. However, I don't like that the article's thesis is that $30 is a lot of money to spend on extra virgin olive oil. This is one of those pernicious misunderstandings that hurts the industry and perpetuates fraud. Making high-quality extra virgin olive oil is hard work. It takes about 10 kilograms of olives to produce 1 to 1.5 liters of extra virgin olive oil. Behind that liter of olive oil are the costs of harvesting the olives, running the mill, bottling, and marketing. Other edible oils are made using petroleum-derived solvents in a highly automated industrial process. They are odorless, flavorless cooking lubricants and of course are much cheaper than EVOO. Personally, I urge consumers to think of olive oil in the context of wine. A $30 bottle of wine will last a couple of hours, while a $30 bottle of olive oil can last for weeks or months. With that, I'll leave it to you to do the math of which one really costs more. Back to BuzzFeed. The article correctly identifies high prices as an incentive for fraud and basically gets the gist of the mechanics behind olive oil fraud correct. They also interviewed an award-winning producer from Italy. She does a good job explaining why olive oil is functionally different from other edible oils. However, she also gives some self-serving and disingenuous advice about how to buy olive oil. She claims that the world's largest bottlers buy olives from farmers, spray them with chemicals to preserve them, and ship them to other countries to mill. While there are many opinions about these large bottlers, in my experience they are purchasing olive oil from producers around the world and shipping it to their facilities to blend and bottle. But if anyone can back this producer's claims up with some evidence, please get in touch. Anyways, the BuzzFeed article does more good than harm in my opinion, but highlights the difficulties of getting good information out there when there's also so much bad information in the industry itself. Moving on to our next story, Costco is the world's 5th largest retailer and one of the largest sellers of olive oil in the US. Their Kirkland Signature Extra Virgin Olive Oil brand, sourced from California, Spain, Greece, Tunisia, and Portugal, consistently performs well in off-the-shelf tests. However, a recent article from Tasting Table warns there is a downside to buying the Kirkland Signature brand: its plastic packaging. The article correctly points out that while plastic is cheaper than glass, The material's porosity allows air and humidity to penetrate the plastic and facilitate the migration of small molecules into the oil. While I do not know for certain, I would imagine that Kirkland's signature is packaged in PET plastic, which is more resistant to oxygen and fat permeability. PVC plastic, it is more porous, and olive oil stored in PVC plastic will degrade more quickly than olive oil stored in PET, or better yet, glass. Indeed, the article correctly identifies dark glass bottles as a far better way to preserve olive oil. The dark color of the glass is necessary to block light. When olive oil is stored in clear containers, its chlorophyll absorbs the light, resulting in photosynthesis, which creates oxygen, leading to oxidation. While dark glass has been the gold standard for olive oil packaging, bag-in-box is also increasingly popular. However, I would personally consider using Tetra Pak, which is an aluminum-coated cardboard container frequently used for milk and tomato sauce outside of the US. Currently, however, I'm using glass bottles. Industry folks tell me that it would be too expensive, but I'd really like to see some research on how its ability to preserve olive oil quality compared to bag-in-box, which is a similar concept involving a plastic PET bladder coated with a metallized film or other liner inside of a cardboard box. Indeed, right now I'm packaging in 250 milliliter and 500 milliliter dark glass bottles. However, starting next year, I will be using 3-liter bag-in-boxes as well. Finally, the article correctly recommends storing olive oil in a cool, dark place. Ideally, the temperature should be between 14 and 16 degrees Celsius or 57 and 64 degrees Fahrenheit. This is excellent advice and overall an accurate and informative article from Food and Table. I'd love to see more practical olive oil coverage like this in the media. If you have seen coverage like this, please let me know in the comments. Joining the show now is the Olive Oil Times senior writer Paolo De Andres. Paolo recently wrote a couple of very interesting articles for Olive Oil Times about the new olive oil promotion and research order in the United States. If approved by the USDA, the order would create a cooperative board with an $8 million budget to promote olive oil consumption and quality through educational and promotional activities. Now, here's my interview with Paolo. Hello, Paolo. How are you?
Hello, Daniel. I'm fine, thank you. So nice to see you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
nice to see you as well. I thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Very happy to be here. Thank you.
First of all, tell me a little bit about the research and
Yeah,
promotion order that the NAOOA has submitted to the USDA.
yeah. Well, the basic idea of the project is to have the American public to have the chance to understand more about olive oil and its impact on health, which goes, of course, for the consumers, but it's also very important for letting lawmakers understand more about why it might be important to include olive oil in policy making, extra virgin olive oil, of course, and also for reaching out to physicians, which are also a very important node for this information to go through the public. And so the whole project is to, of course, involve stakeholders like importers, farmers themselves, into becoming mean support to this to the development of this operation of communication and understanding.
Okay. So this promotion order then it would be providing a budget to create a commodity board and then use that to educate doctors and retailers about, well, I guess in terms of doctors about the health benefits of extra virgin olive oil and how that can fit in with treatment plans. And then I saw something about educating more parts of the supply chain as to how to properly store and transport extra virgin olive oil so that it isn't going through massive temperature fluctuations.
Absolutely, yes. And it also must be said that not all stakeholders will be actually involved in the financial support of a program. That actually goes more towards the olive oil handlers and importers. They will have to pay for supporting that $0.08 per gallon. And that happens only if they handle or import more than 5,000 gallons per year. That also is significant because it tells us who's gonna really support this program. And the interesting thing is that talking with those importers, they're really supportive to this program.
Okay, so you're saying it's the largest companies that are going to pay mainly into this program, and the idea is that everyone in the sector will benefit. But these importers, they don't seem to mind. They don't seem to mind it. Why is that?
Yeah, speaking with them, the idea that they have is that this promotion order is actually very important because they actually want to raise to grow the market in olive oil. They kind of need that to show for their business, but of course it's also very important for them to show the public that there is a consensus throughout the whole industry. And that is also interesting because the board, for instance, that is going to be created if the order is actually passed, will be for 1/3 occupied by actually farmers. So even those who are not financially contributing to the program itself will have a large voice there. So they will be really guaranteed that everything will be going in a direction helpful for all stakeholders from farmers. That is the impression I have while talking with both farmers, the producers, and the importers.
One of the challenges in the United States market that I've heard producers talk about is you have a lot of household penetration in upper middle class coastal communities, including big cities such as New York City and Los Angeles. And it's been more difficult to get penetration into more rural areas and also kind of African American and Native American communities where they don't have as much of a cultural affinity toward it. Is there anything in this promotion order to specifically address that?
Yeah, sure, of course. Actually, there is. The board is actually aiming to reach, actually, to actually focus on those areas of the population, those segments that didn't have the opportunity to really explore extra virgin olive oil. So that is one of the main parts of that mission is to go to those segments. And how to do this? That could be events, of course, cultural events and more, but they also are going to talk to physicians and middle infrastructures of a society that will help them to reach this kind of public. Of course, here a very important aspect is related to the price of a product, which also has a meaning for a lot of people, of course. Yeah.
Okay, and so this is just a proposal for now, and your very informative article published on Olive Oil Times, I quoted someone saying that it was a good sign that the USDA had published the proposal, and that in that person's experience, that usually meant that they were strongly considering it. So, what exactly needs to happen for this to be implemented legally?
Well, as far as I understand, talking with those who are following the whole process, is that probably will take a few months to really know if this program can be approved. There's actually not much we can do or people can do now for knowing how it will go, but certainly the publication of that the publishing of that on the website, of course, was considered an important sign of in that direction. Also, it's interesting because consensus is building up for this proposal. I also detecting that talking with people, farmers, importers, experts, and I would say that three things are mainly happening now. What is happening is that the support of a great number of stakeholders, you can see that in just a few weeks, we have seen a rising tide of consensus. Also, I would say that the way the proposal is engineered is also very important because one of the key aspects of a proposal is the delayed referendum. Delaying referendum means that the stakeholders themselves will have 3 years to really see the board at work. So they will have 3 years to see if this whole project is working. Of course, there also must be said that previous AG programs had a lot of success in bringing to the general public, like avocado or mango. They had a lot of success in reaching the consumer, so that is expected to happen with extra virgin olive oil. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that they cited the example of the avocado board, which it is true. I remember growing up in the United States when I was a little kid, you didn't really see avocados. It wasn't as common, but now it is much more common. Okay, and so they think that they can adopt the same strategies and they can get to a similar end result.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the experience is. And also, talking with the experts of his field, you can see how the skeptical segment that was kind of there in the first times of while the proposal was still elaborated, is now kind of seems to be turning towards the proposal itself because these previous experiences are really important, considered very important.
Thanks again to Paolo for joining the show today, and I thank all of you for tuning in as well. A few housekeeping notes before I go. I'm still looking for a co host to join me in taking on the headlines and discussing the latest news in the olive oil world. I'm also looking for more guests to discuss all things olive oil. If you're interested, please get in touch with me. My email is in the show notes. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.